Live, waiting to see if I show up over here in my other window. Live, waiting to see if I show up over here in my other window. Live, waiting to see if I show up over here in my other window. Live, waiting to see if I show up. Oh, that's funny. So if you watch the beginning of this, you'll hear an echo and an echo and an echo because I did indeed show up over here in the other window, but it also was playing the sound. Alrighty. There we go. So, I'm just gonna be streaming a little bit while I try and figure out some things. So what I'm working on tonight is I am going to be speaking, let's pull up the website here, at the Atlanta Code Camp. So here we go. So I'm going to be speaking at the Atlanta Code Camp coming up in October 9th. And wow, I'm really washed out when I have all that white up at the same time there. See if that helps. There we go. And so this is going to be Saturday, October 9th, and there's a lot of good speakers that are signed up for this thing, and I think there's still availability to attend if you want to attend. If we come look at the speakers, we can see that there's a lot of great people that are signed up. Jason Bach, Jeremy Davis, Chad Green, who runs the Louisville.net user group. And of course, if you scroll on down a little bit, you can find me, Mickey Gousset. And I'm going to be speaking on getting started with GitHub Actions. So that's going to be Saturday at 2:15. So if you're at the Atlanta Code Camp and want to come check it out, that would be awesome. Would love to see you there. This is a talk that I've done previously, but I kind of want to tighten it up a little bit, update it, and also make sure I put everything out there in open source repos so that people can, or public repos so that people can access them and use the talk on their own if they want to. And I've also got some pieces of the talk where when I've given it previously, I've always been here in my office, so I've been able to make them work with things that are in my office. So now I'm trying to bring those things with me on the road to see if we can do some audience interaction while we're on the road. The talk that I normally do is 75 minutes. This talk is going to be 60, so I've got to also figure out how to cut it down. So today I'm playing with GitHub Actions, going to be working on the talk, going to be working on some slides too. Been messing around some with the GitHub CLI, so we'll probably use that a little bit today. And the GitHub CLI now has the ability to interact with actions. So you can do things like enable and disable actions all from the CLI. So if you like doing stuff from the command line, that is also a great way to do things. And I'm also going to be showing off the new web-based editor for editing your repositories. And I'll actually have a video going up on YouTube in the next couple of days that will also cover that in a slightly, probably more coherent fashion, but maybe not as in-depth. But if you've not seen the web-based editor for editing your repo, it's really, really cool. So let me just leave a message in the chat window for anybody that might show up. And hey everyone, I'm going to be playing with actions and other stuff. Feel free to ask me any questions about anything. So, why don't we then actually get started? So I've got my Mickey Gousset org, and I've kind of waffled back and forth. I've had multiple organizations where I want to keep stuff, and I think I finally am going to settle for the most part on the Mickey Gousset org, for where I keep a majority of stuff. So this is going to be I've got a repo out there called Intro to GitHub Actions Talk. And this is going to be the repository where I'm going to keep this particular repo. Now, first thing is, in case I want to work local, I want to pull this thing down local. So I've already kind of done that. I've got my Windows terminal, and I do most of my work on my Windows machine using WSL. So just to be aware that if this looks a little strange, if you've not used a Windows terminal yet, Windows terminal is awesome, and then using on WSL is really, really nice. And you can see I've got my repository, right? And if I do a quick look, I can see that there's all my files that are in my repository right now. Perfect. So if you've not used the GitHub command line, the GitHub CLI, it is a tool you can install that allows you to do a lot of stuff around GitHub from the command line. So if I do a gh.help or --help, shows you all the different things we can do from the command line. Such we can deal with issues, we can deal with pull requests, we can do stuff around actions, we can do stuff around repositories. So in this case, I could do a gh repo --help, and it shows me all the commands that I can use to interact with my repository. And one of those commands is sync. So if I do a gh repo sync, then this is going to check and see and sync everything up. And so if I just did a standard git pull, then we'll see that I am up to date. Woohoo! So I've got all my files down. So I've got several things I need to try to accomplish in this particular evening. So let's open up Notepad here, and let's kind of make a list of stuff that I would like to try to do on this particular stream related to my project. So obviously I need to work on the slides. I need to make sure action demos work. I need to decide if I want to include concurrency, which I have a video up on concurrency on my YouTube channel if that's something that you're interested in. But I need to decide if I want to include concurrency in this talk or not, or do I want to just put that in my more advanced talk? And decide if I want to include GH in this talk. So how much do I want to use the command line in this particular talk? All right, so if we come back out to the repository here. So here's my repo. Now, if you've interacted with working with repositories here in the past, you know that I could come in here if I wanted to edit this README file. I could do that by clicking the pencil, and I could make a change, and then at the bottom here I could commit that change back or to the main branch or to a particular branch. And of course, since I have the repo pulled down local, I could just edit here using VI or VS Code or whatever I'd like to use. But we have a new feature now at GitHub called the GitHub Web-Based Editor. And this is for editing being able to edit inside your repo. Now there's two ways to open up the web-based editor. The first way is instead of typing github.com and going to your organization and your repo, you can come out here and you can type github.dev. And what you'll see is that it will start the web editor, which is essentially VS Code running in your web browser. Kind of. It's not the full-fledged VS Code, but it does allow you can see in my files view, I can see my .github folder, my web app folder. I can see all the files that were in my repository. And I can edit from here. I have the ability to take my changes and commit those back into the repository, the GitHub repository. Now what it's doing is it's actually doing all these changes in your browser sandbox, and then you push those changes back up to the, and then it saves those changes back to the GitHub repository. I do not have the ability to run applications and debug applications using this. This is not full-fledged code spaces. There is no compute behind this. This is just running in your browser. So if I wanted to be able to actually run the application or debug the application or anything like that, then I've got to use code spaces, or I've got to run it locally. And with the extensions, there's only certain extensions that are going to work with this. So for example, if I came in here and I said type .NET, you're going to see there's a lot of extensions that aren't available. And it says .NET Core extension not available in Visual Studio Code for the web. There are some that are available. I mean, if we back it up, you'll see that there are some extensions that are available. And then you'll also notice that by default, the GitHub pull request and issue extension is there. And if you've not looked at the GitHub pull request and issue extension, I'll be honest, I didn't realize that was there until just a little bit earlier today. And this allows you to interact with pull requests and interact with issues that are in your repository. So if you think about it, I can stay in this code view if I want to, and be able to make my code changes, be able to make my pull requests, be able to create my issues, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to experiment around with using the web editor some on this stream, as well as maybe even the pull requests and the issues inside the web editor. See if we can get an understanding for how that works. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure all of my, now if I want to get out of this, I can simply take this from being github.com and take it back to being github.dev. And the other way I can get into the web editor is just by hitting the period on my keyboard. And if I hit the period on my keyboard, it takes me into the web editor. Now this is free for everyone that's on github.com. It's out there now. You can use it. I highly recommend that you check it out, see what you think. You can also select the hamburger menu option here and select to go back to the repository, And what I'm going to do is open up another window and go to github.com/mickeygousset.org, just so I have a repo view as well as a code view. Now, first thing I want to do before I start working with my different actions that in this talk are make sure they're all disabled. And I can go to the Actions tab, and you can see that currently they are all showing as disabled. And the way you enable or disable them through the UI is there's a button over here that I can click to say enable this workflow. And if I want to disable it, I could click this button and say disable workflow. Now that one is enabled. If I come back to my GitHub CLI and I do a GitHub Actions --help, then you can see that I have different things that I can look at the runs of the actions. I can look at workflow files, and I can enable or disable workflow files as well as list them and view them. So if I do a GH workflow list, by default, it only shows me the ones that are active. If I do a GH workflow list --all, then it's going to show me all of my workflows, and it shows me the workflow name, whether it's active or disabled, and the ID of the workflow. And then if I wanted to, I could say GH workflow disable 133.46732. And now if I do a workflow list, you see that they are all disabled. Now what's really cool about this is because we have this nice interaction using the GitHub CLI to be able to work with workflows, we could script out different scripts using the CLI to enable or disable workflows or monitor workflows, whatever we want to do. And instead of having to figure out our own way of writing against the APIs, we can just use the GitHub CLI to do that. So I thought that was kind of handy. So right now they're all disabled. Now if we look at my talk, then the way this talk works is we start off with the basics, and then we get more and more advanced. And I've got some slides that go along with this because this is an intro talk. So therefore we have, we want to make sure we cover the concepts to make sure people understand what's happening in the talk. So I'm going to worry about the slides later. Right now I want to make sure my demos work. And my demos are start pretty basic and then get more advanced as we go through. So I'm going to come back over to our Visual Studio Code and let's do this. Let's make sure, turn off all the alarms. And then we will come up here, and if I go to my .github folder, my .workflows folder, then that's where all of our workflow files are stored for GitHub Actions. So if we look at the first demo, then this is the basic workflow file, which is manually triggered. And what we're doing with this first demo is we're just showing off the very basics of a workflow. So in this case, we've got demo 1. We are only triggering on workflow dispatch. So we're making this a manual trigger. And we're also showing how you can provide an input. And then we're only showing one job. It's the greet job, and that job name is going to be greet. Now that's interesting. Right now I have this set to run on self-hosted, but we're not going to be using self-hosted runners. So let's change this to be Ubuntu. You know what? I don't want to make these changes on the main branch. So let's first create a new branch. And I'm going to call this new branch. Let's see, remind me who I'm logged in as over here. I think it's my demo user, Mickey-Octodemo. So we're going to create a new branch, and we'll call this Mickey-Octodemo and demo 01. And yes, I want to switch to that branch, and it's going to refresh and switch me to the branch. And I'm going to discard this change and start over. So let's go back to our files. Let's go to .github. Let's go to demo 1. And where this one was set to self-hosted, we don't want this to be self-hosted. We want this to be Ubuntu latest. Now the one thing that I don't necessarily like about using the code editor here versus using the editor that we get in the browser is the one we get in the browser does give me like autocomplete, things like that. But I wonder if there's an extension in the marketplace. Let's see if there's an extension in the marketplace that will work here for GitHub Actions. GitHub Actions workflow and runs for github.com hosted repositories in VS Code. Let's check this out. So it's got 40,000 downloads, 13 stars. It's unofficial, but it does give us autocomplete. Huh. Inspect logs. Oh, this looks interesting. Let's go give this a shot. Let's see if it'll install. So I'm going to say install. And did you install, or did you just pretend to install? See, I've not tried this before. It may not work. Or maybe I've got to refresh. Huh. What if I go back to the repository and then I go back into the editor? All right, so there is an extension. It obviously doesn't seem to be working. So for now, we will just do it this way, and we can also use the editor through the web browser if we want to use the editor through the browser as well. So in this case, we're going to run on Ubuntu latest, and we've got one step which does a greeting and does an echo, hello, and the input value. So a very simple example that gets us started. So let's make sure this is saved. Oh, we're on our main branch. That's not where I want to be. I want to, so let's discard this change. Let's switch to our Octademo branch, demo1 branch. Oh, that could be interesting. Oh no, I thought it was going to show it installed, but it did not. So we've got this set as Ubuntu latest. So this looks good. So now we can come over here. And you can see that your changes will be committed directly to the Octademo demo1 branch. That's perfectly fine. So here's my change. You'll notice I can create a pull request directly from here because I do have the GitHub pull request and issues installed if I want to. So for right now, let's just stage this change to use Ubuntu latest. And we're going to say commit that. And that's going to commit that to that demo1 branch. And in fact, if we come back over here to the repo and we change to the demo1 branch, then we can see that there's our change and did change it to use Ubuntu latest. Now, I'd like to test this out, right? So I'd like to test this out, and I actually can test it on the branch because usually with a workflow dispatch, it has to be installed or has to be pushed to the main branch first, and then you can run it off of the main branch, or if it's in a other branch, you could run the version in the other branch. But because when I'm doing the talk, I'm going to be doing all this running out of the main branch, so I want to simulate how I'm doing things in the talk. So that's what we're going to do. So I need to create a pull request and move this to the main branch. But you know what? I think I need to, let's make an issue to start tracking some of the changes that we want to make here. So I'm going to create a new issue. And this is going to be, we'll call this the demo cleanup issue. And the goal of this is going to be to track cleaning up the demos that currently exist. So we've got demo 1, demo 2. What I'm doing is creating an issue that we're going to use to track stuff. Demo 3, demo 4. And then see, I've got a demo 5, but I think I'm going to remove demo 5 and I'm going to turn demo. Wait, let's make sure. So if I come back up to my code editor, come over here. So see, I've got a demo 5, but I think I'm going to remove demo 5. Remove demo 5, make demo 06 become demo 05. Then I need to create demo 7, which is using an LFIX bulb. So I've got a demo where which hopefully will allow people to interact with, from the audience to interact as part of this talk. So this is kind of our checklist of stuff that we originally want to do. So I'm gonna submit this. Let's see, we got any default labels that we might want to apply to this? We're gonna call this enhancements. And that looks good. So we've got issue 03. So we can see that we've got code that we've pushed. So we can create a pull request here in the web browser. Now apparently we can also do this in the code editor as well. And we'll try that here in just a little bit. But let's go with creating it here. So this is going to be demo 01 changed to use Ubuntu latest, and we're going to say relates to #3, which is our demo cleanup issue. So we're going to link this back, this pull request, we're going to link back to our issue, and I'm going to create this pull request. So of course, if we go to the issue, then we can see that we've linked this pull request to this issue. And of course, if we go back to the pull request, I don't have anything right now that does any checks. It's all fine. In fact, I probably could have just committed directly to main, but you know what? We're going to try to follow better practices to use branches and do it that way. So we're going to merge this pull request to main. Now I'm not going to delete the branch yet, because I want to make sure that we've done everything we want to do on demo 1 before I delete this branch. But now, if we come back over to code, we can see that demo 1 has been updated. Now, demo 1, we can't execute right now because it's disabled. So we could come in here and we could manually enable it, and then we could run it. But I'm wondering if we can also do this from the GitHub CLI. In fact, before we do that, I'm going to come back over to my issue, and I'm going to create a new issue, and we'll call this demo enhancements, and I am things to track that I might want to add new. So this could be using the GitHub CLI to interact with workflows. So we'll submit that issue. So now we have a couple of issues for tracking what we want to do. But I wonder if I can do this from the command line, especially because it requires a parameter. So if we clear this out and we say GitHub Actions -- help. So it looks like I can enable and I can run. So if we do GitHub workflow run -- help, creates a workflow dispatch event, interactively, flags, or JSON. Okay. So if the workflow file supports inputs, You can do it interactive. You could pass them in as flags. Oh, that's interesting. Or with a JSON file. Like name equals Scully, greeting equal hello. Interesting. Okay, so it looks like I could do a GitHub workflow list. Oops, GitHub workflow list -- all. And then I could say GitHub workflow enable. You can do it by name or ID, so we'll enable it. So if we verify that's enabled, it is. And then if I do a GH workflow -- help, GH workflow run -- help, I should be able to say GitHub workflow run workflow ID. And if I don't pass anything through, then it should prompt me for parameters. Interesting, it did not. And I wonder if that's because I provided a default. And it's probably already completed, but it looks like I can see the runs for it. All right, so here we can see that it ran. Let's refresh this whole page. So we can see that it's enabled. And how I would have run this manually is by clicking here. And we can see that it's enabled. And so I can drill in, I can look at the report, and we can see that it did say hello world, and world being what was passed in as the parameter. So let's see if we can figure out how to trigger this and pass in the parameter. So I say run workflow, and then I say -f. Now, you know what? We need to know what the parameter name is first, right? So if we say workflow list or workflow -- help, then we can say GH workflow view -- help. Which allows us to say workflow view. All right, so we need to do the list first. Let's do the list. And we're going to say GH workflow view. Oh, and if we want to see the YAML, we see squawk whack YAML -- YAML. So it looks like our input is called name. So we should be able to say GH workflow run -f name equal Elvis. That created the event. Let's see if we can type this fast enough to see anything. So it hasn't started running yet. Oh, now it's already finished. So if we come back over here to our Actions tab, then we can see that it ran. And if we look at the greeting, and it did echo out, "Hello, Elvis." Sweet. So we can start adding in some stuff to our basic workflow demo. So let's come out here, and we're still on our demo 1 branch. And if I look at my README file says that demo 1 is, I'm giving an explanation of the workflows here. And demo 1 is used to explain the basic workflow structure. So I think I'm going to add a new file, and I'm going to call this demo01.md. And this is going to be demo01 basic workflow file demo instructions. And this is going to be the instructions that you might want to use at kind of a high level to give you an idea of how to run through this particular demo. So I provide some high level instructions on how to run this demo. And those high level instructions are going to be we're going to come out here, we're going to show, oops, let's pull this out. Let's see if this is going to work the way I want it to. All right, so we got some high-level we want to write out the. I'm gonna kind of start tracking the instructions for this, because the idea is to also put this out there for other people to use. Plus, I can also take these instructions and put them into the PowerPoint if I want to do that as well. So if you're going to show this particular demo, you're going to have to open the, make you say org/intro to GitHub Actions talk repo. And let's see, let's move this over a little bit. There we go. So you're going to open the repo, show the .github/workflows folder, and mention how all workflows have to go in that folder. Estimated demo time, X minutes for now. And open demo01.yaml, oops, demo-01.yaml in web. So I don't want to call it the web editor. I want it in web browser. Click Edit Pencil to show web browser editor for workflows, because it's a little bit different, right? If we click the Edit Pencil here, then we have we can select a blank line and click Control plus space to show IntelliSense. Change line 4 to be name to show the red lines of something is wrong in the file. So if we come over here and change the name, you see we get the reg squigglies. And then walk through the basic file. So display name, trigger event, job, and the step. So walk through the basic file and explain what is happening. And we're going to say click the Actions tab. So I'm thinking for this intro talk, because this is an intro talk. So I'm thinking for this intro talk that I'm not going to do that much with the CLI unless I have time at the end. So I'm going to get all of the demos working, and then I'm going to write up some extra CLI stuff in case I have time to add the CLI. Otherwise, the GitHub CLI can all be incorporated into the advanced talk. Hold on a second. All right. So let's widen this out a little bit. So then, of course, click the Actions tab. Click Demo 1. Run the workflow against the main branch. Okay. So run the workflow against the main branch. Run workflow. And click into the workflow run. Explain the main page, including the visualization, click the job, discuss. Let's see, you mentioned you can view log while workflow is running, and click send greeting and see the results. Then we're going to click send greeting, and we can see that it did hello world. Perfect. So that gives me demo 1 running in the main branch. Seems to work fine. So let's come over here. Let's commit this, and we'll say this is the demo 01 instructions, and we will commit that to that branch. If we do a refresh, we'll see that there's that branch, it's one ahead. And now I want to create a pull request to go against that branch. So we'll come over to pull requests. We'll create a new pull request going from octodemo to main. Let's view this file. See if our markdown looks okay. That's fine. We haven't got that. That's fine. So we're going to say create pull request. And this is going to tie back to demo cleanup. And we will create this pull request. Merge it back into main, confirm the merge. And at this point, I think I'm done right now with demo 1. So I'm going to choose to delete the branch. Now I am going to come back over here to this issue and my demo enhancements. I'm going to add a comment. Tested ability to execute workflows using the GitHub CLI with parameters, and it worked. The plan is to add instructions for this as extra if there is time during the talk. Otherwise, we do need to add this to the advanced GitHub Actions talk. Okay, so we will add that as a comment so we can track that. And then we're going to come back over to this issue, and we have got issue 1 working. To see our comments' previous revisions, click the edited drop down. Oh, that's cool. Okay. Got it. All right. So we've making some progress. Got demo 1 done. So let's come back and look at demo 2. You know what? I'm going to go back into my code view at this point. And we're on the main branch, so we're going to create a branch off of this. So we'll call this, create a new branch. We'll call this Mickey-Octodemo. So I normally name my branches, my username, and then something for the branch name. So demo 2. And yes, we want to switch to that branch. All right, so demo 2 was showing matrix builds. Right, so demo 2 was essentially showing how we can branch things out. So we've got the name, we're still triggering workflow dispatch. We've still got the one job called greet. But now we have our what's called this keyword strategy that's going to, and that strategy is going to be a matrix, and then we can provide multiple parameters into that matrix, which then we can use to spawn this job out from one job into multiple jobs. Now initially we want this line commented out, so let's comment this line out. And initially we want this line commented out. So we'll comment this line out. So what's going to happen is this job greet is going to run. But since we're using a matrix strategy, we're telling it that we want to try it to run on Ubuntu, Mac OS, and Windows. So you'll notice on the runs on, we're now specifying, that's a change I need to make to demo 1, make sure we talk about runs on as well. But we're specifying matrix.os. So therefore this job, because we specified strategy matrix, this job is going to branch out from to run 3 times. We didn't have to define it 3 times. We were able to define it once, but we're able to reuse it to run 3 times. So if we save this, and let's push this to our branch. So commented out Python. Then what we're going to see, if we come back over here and we say github.com/mickeygousset.org, what we're going to see is, if we go to the Actions tab, then we'll see that Demo 2 is currently disabled. So we're going to enable it. Now remember, we did that earlier from the GitHub command line, but now we're just doing it from the web browser. And but I haven't merged that change, right? So what's on the main branch is going to be different than what's on the Demo 2 branch. So let's see what happens though if I do a run workflow, because when I'm doing this demo for real, I'm just making all my changes on the main branch, because that saves the time of having to go through a pull request and push that and then make that pull request. So we're going to run this workflow, but we're going to choose to run it on the Demo 2 branch. And we're going to pass in hello Todd. And we're going to say run this workflow. And what we should see is Demo 2 executing. And I know it's running on the correct branch because it's only running those 3 jobs, the Ubuntu, macOS, and Windows latest. It's not running any of the changes to, it's not running also the Python that were enabled in the main branch, but not enabled on the other branches. And so you can see that, it's writing out hello Todd, and it ran on each of the OSs that we specified. So we're able to take that one job and run it on the multiple OSs. Okay, that worked. So now if I come back over here and I uncomment Python, you'll also notice that I'm specifying an array in different ways. For the OS, I'm specifying it individually on individual lines. For Python, I'm specifying it inside of brackets, so separated by quotes or by commas. And then I'm going to uncomment this line as well. So how many times, and then you ask, oh, well, how many times is this going to run? Because we should see 9 jobs now. So we'll come back over here. Come back over here to our change. We will uncommented Python, push that to the branch. And if we come back out to our action and we select it and we say run with Todd 2 against our branch, Todd 2, and now we get 9 jobs, which is what we expected. It's going to fan that job out and run 9 versions of it. And the nice thing about using hosted runners is you can get up to 20 jobs that run concurrently or at the same time. Sweet. So that works. So let's change this back. To where those are initially commented out. Ooh. And commented out Python again. And now let's create a pull request. And put this check. Well, before we create the pull request, you know what? We need to go ahead and let's create the demo. So can we copy this file? Let's copy this file. And rename it. Oh, first off, it's in the wrong spot. It needs to be down here. Oh. Let's rename this into demo 2. And now, let's move it down here. And this is going to be demo 2. Matrix strategies. Oh, I can't spell. Matrix strategies. We're going to open demo 2 in the browser. We're going to click the edit. Well, we don't have to click the edit pencil at this point. So in this case, though, we want to talk about walk through the file and explain what's happening. And we want to make sure we focus on the fact that we're using a matrix job or strategy matrix. Strategy matrix. I want to focus on the run on. Focus on the runs on. And we're going to go to the Actions tab. We're going to click Demo 2. We're going to run the workflow against the main branch. Click into the workflow run, explains what's happening. We should see 3 jobs execute. We're going to say view the results of the jobs. Then we're going to open demo 02.yaml in a web browser. Click pencil to edit. Uncomment Python in matrix and Python in step. Ask audience how many times they think this will run. Just go ahead and push it to main for now. Again, this is the intro talk, not the advanced talk. So I'm not that concerned about necessarily showing them that it runs on the branch, or you can run on the branch, whatever. I'm just going to push it to main. Run demo 02 again. View workflow run and see how many jobs are started. Mention that with hosted runners, you can have 20 concurrent jobs at once. And notice how all the jobs run at the same time. So that's demo 2. Demo 2 is just diving into the matrix. While I'm here, let's go back to this issue and let's go to demo cleanup issues and let's edit this. And I'm going to add a tag so you can reset the repo to a beginning state. Essentially, I want to be able to say, oh, when I'm done using this repo as a demo, I can just run something and reset everything back the way it was. That's what I want to do. I'm not a Git expert, so I will have to figure that part out as well. But if we come back over here to the web editor, then I can take this and I can say this is demo 02 instructions. And I can commit those to my demo 02 branch as well. So now, let's see if we can figure out how to because I can click the GitHub icon here and I can create a pull request from here. It looks like also from the source control I can create I can create a pull request as well. So if I say create a pull request, let's open this back up a little bit, then this is going to take changes from this repo, this branch, and put them into the same repo to the main branch. I can give my pull request a title. So this might be updated demo 2 code and instructions. And I want to link this to, I see I don't get my little IntelliSense there, but this should be linked to issue 3. And I can create it as a draft or I can create the whole thing. So let's create it, or create it live. So that takes me to, interesting, a pull request view where I basically have access. Now I think this is coming from having the GitHub extension, the pull request and issue extension installed. But now I have access to be able, I can work with this pull request without leaving the web editor. Okay, this is pretty cool. So if I just want to merge this pull request, oh, I do have my linkage. What happens if I click this? Is that going to take me? Takes me to the issue. Okay. So I'm going to merge this pull request using just your merge commit. So I'm going to merge it, and I have the option to delete the branch. And so I'm getting prompted at the top here. Are you sure you want to do this? Yes, let's delete it. So now if I come back over here, that pull request should show up in closed pull request. And back on my code, I can see there's demo 02. Sweet. It did delete the branch. Interestingly enough, it still thinks I'm on the branch over here. But we can obviously switch that back to the main. All right. So we're making progress. So the first demo is, oh, we need to go back to our issue as well. Oh, can we get to that from, so if I come over here, there's the issue cleanup. Oh, that's cool. Looks like if I click, so if I click this, what's going to happen is it's going to actually create a topic branch based off the issue name for me to start working on. That's pretty slick. However, it doesn't look like, well, can I? Start working with issue, open issue on GitHub. Open issue on GitHub is going to open it in the UI. That's fine. What does start working? I'm betting that's what creates the branch. So we're not gonna, I don't want to do that right now. So we're just gonna come back over to the issue. We'll go to, oh, that's the enhancements one. So we'll go to the cleanup issue one, and we're gonna do demo 2. All right, so those are the first 2 demos. Demo 3 then builds off of demo 2, because in demo 2 what we did is we showed how you can matrix out those jobs, but then how they all run at once. So demo 3 starts talking about how we can chain jobs together and how we can control how those jobs run. So let's come back out here. Let's go to our main branch. Let's create a new branch. We'll call this Mickey-octademo/demo03. And we're going to switch to that branch. So let's drill down and select demo 3. So this demo is all about chaining the jobs together. So let's look through this file. So we're going to comment out these 2 lines of code initially. That's interesting. And we're going to comment out these 2 lines of code initially. Essentially, the main focus of this particular demo is this needs keyword. So with the needs keyword commented out, all of these jobs should run at the same time when we execute this. So let's commit this change, and we're going to say the change. And ooh, does this work? Oh, that works too. Hey, look, I can make the screen a little bit easier for people to read. Nice. So this is going to be commented out needs statement, and we're going to push that to the branch. Now back over here, and again, when we're doing this in the actual demo or in the actual presentation, we're just going to be doing all this off of the main branch. But for now, we can come in here, we can enable this workflow. It's still a manual run workflow, so it's not hurt anything. And by hurt anything, I mean I don't have to worry about something else triggering this like I would if it was, say, triggering on a push or triggering on a pull request. So I'm going to run this workflow, and I want to target my demo 3 branch, so it selects that one, and I'm going to say run workflow. And we can see that all 4 jobs get queued up. And they all run in parallel as we would expect. Okay, so if we come back over to our code and now let's uncomment this. And this is where we would come in here, we would uncomment the needs, we would uncomment this needs. We were talking about the fact that job 2 needs to execute once job 1 finishes, job 3 needs to execute when job 1 finishes, and job 4 needs to execute. Oops. Messed that one up. Job 4 needs to execute when 2 and 3 finish. So what this should do is we've got job 1, fans out to jobs 2 and 3, fans back into job 4. So let's keep doing that. This is going to be uncommented needs. Push that to the branch. Let's come back over here to our actions. Let's run this again. Again, targeting that branch because that's where our current code is. And we'll just change the name a little bit and we will run this workflow. And now if we go look at the visualization, ta-da, it looks like more what we would expect with our first job. Then when the first job executes successfully, the second, third job can run, then the fourth job will run. And this visualization, you can move it around, you can zoom in, you can zoom out. That will center it. And it works the way you would expect it to work. All right, so in that case, we need to come back over here. We need to copy demo 02. Rename this to be demo 3. Let's see, what did I call this in the README? Jobs and chaining. So this is my jobs and chaining demo instructions. So again, we open that up, we go to the folder. We don't have to mention that anymore because that's going to be self-apparent. We're going to go to demo 3. Walk through the file. Basically, we have 4 jobs that when we run this should all run in parallel. Click the Actions tab, click 03, run the workflow, click the workflow run. And we should see 4 jobs execute in parallel. Sweet. Okay. So then we're going to go back to demo 3, click the pencil to edit, uncomment all the needs statements, explain we are starting with job 1, fanning out to job 2 and 3, fanning back into job 4. Push it to main, run demo 3 again. Let's run explain visualization. There we go. Cool. So let's add this to it. This is going to be demo 03 instructions. Commit those. Let's come back out to the UI because we can. And we can create a pull request here. And we can tie this back to demo cleanup. Create this pull request. And merge it. Confirm the merge and delete the branch. Let's come back to our issue, to our demo cleanup, and we have fixed 3 as well. All right, we're making progress. Let's switch back to our main branch. Then we get into demo 4, which is showing, so we've shown the basics workflows, we've shown how you can do matrix builds, we've shown how you can add multiple jobs into a workflow file and chain those jobs together in the order you want to chain them. Then we're going to take a brief digression and talk about context variables. So let's go look at So this is what we're going to talk about. There's lots of different context variables that are out there that you can potentially, ooh, I just thought of something else to do though. So demo enhancements, let's go back to our demo enhancements. Let's edit this because we might also want to show how to turn on debugging. All right, so demo 4 is context variables. So let's create a branch. You know the drill. We'll call this Mickey-octademo/demo04. And we will, and this demo is basically writing out context variables. So still triggered manually. And in this case, we're using a strategy because we can, no other particular reason other than just we can. So we're using a runs on matrix. And then we're dumping out a bunch of the context variables. And the most important context variable out of all this is the GitHub context variable, because that's what has a lot of the information that you might want to care. And the context variables are defined and explained in the documentation, but it's kind of nice to also be able to export them and be able to see what they are for your particular run as well. And this is the secret sauce right here, this to.json. This takes the GitHub context object and converts it to a JSON format. You can see we've got the GitHub context object, which is the high-level object. We've got a job context object, a steps context object, a runner context object, a strategy context object, and a matrix context object. And we're going to basically just run this over Ubuntu and Windows. So there's no changes to be made to this one. So let's go out here and go to Actions, and we will enable this. Ooh, demo enhancements. Demo enhancements. Thought of another demo enhancement. Bum bum. Oh, sweet. I've got people watching, but my little chat is not updating. Hopefully you haven't been asking me questions, because that will be very embarrassing. But I thought, what was my demo enhancement that I just thought of? What was I looking at? What was I looking at? Oh, I thought of something, but I don't remember what it was. So it must not have been that important. And it looks like somebody came in and dropped me an issue. Let's see. Feedback for my demo. Okay, good feedback. So this is some really good feedback. Appreciate it. Thank you, Ian. And do you have a demo that shows information about job? So that is something that I do in the more advanced so I've got two talks. I've got a basic talk and I've got an advanced talk. That's the one that I do in the more advanced kind of talk, but that's all very good feedback. All very good feedback. I'll respond back to these more tomorrow and keep them in mind. Thank you. See? Beautiful. Look at that. So I'll have to do some rethinking because I might want to take some of this into account. Cool. All right. For the time being though, if we come back over here and we go to, oh wait. Oh, I'm gonna keep this open for now. I'm going to keep this open for now so that I remember it. So if we come back to actions and we select that puppy, and since we do have the branch, we'll just run the one that's on the branch. Even though the one that's on the branch and the one that's in main is the same, we're gonna run that workflow. And what we should see, and this is cool, right? GitHub context objects, this is the cool stuff. So we can see that we've got both of them running, but check this out. We have dumped the GitHub context object out into JSON so that we can easily see it. And there's some really good stuff in this thing, right? We've got repository information, we've got the run ID and the run number, we've got who kicked this off, workflow name. We have all these different links to repository information to the API, so then we could actually use these URLs somewhere later in our workflow. And this is what we talk about with GitHub Actions. We talk about the fact that it's not just a CI/CD system. It is a workflow system that can trigger off of any of the events that are happening inside of GitHub. So therefore, you can do more than just CI/CD. Now, I focus a lot, not a lot, but this talk is a little more CI/CD kind of focused. You'll see that at in the last demo that I have. But the advanced talk goes into a lot of stuff you can do that's not CI/CD focused. So, sweet. No questions. That's cool. And you can see that the GitHub context object has a lot of information in it. If we look at some of these other ones, like the job context just came back saying success, could have also been like failure or skipped, I believe. The steps context didn't really have anything in it. The runner context just gives you some basic information about the runner. The strategy context talks about the information on the fact that we're using strategy and the strategy that we're using. And that's the specific value that we're using from the matrix. But out of all these, the GitHub context object is the one that's the most important because that's the one that you're probably going to want to get stuff out of to use later in your workflows. So let's come back over here and let's write this one up real quick. Because then we get to the fun one. Because the next one is an actual, almost real-ish kind of world example. So let's copy this thing. Wait. Copy. Paste. I'm going to rename that to be demo 4. And this is going to be demo 4. And obviously I kind of know how my demos work. So these demo instructions are more for anybody that wants to come out and actually use this demo themselves, fork the repo, use it themselves. Context object demo instructions. And let's see. So obviously we're going to do it, boom, boom, boom. We're going to open up demo 4. We're going to walk through the file, explain what's happening, explain the GitHub context object. Oop, can't type. Explain the toJSON function. Briefly look at other objects. Now you got to remember, I'm not necessarily doing all these demos back to back. I think I'm doing the first 2 or 3 demos, and then I am switching back to some slides and going back and forth that way. So there's some slides interjected in this, but this is probably 75% demo, 25% slides would be my guess. So we're going to click demo 4, run the workflow. Click into the workflow run, explain what we're seeing. I don't need to really explain the main page, but we're just going to review the results, specifically the GitHub context object. Talk about how you can use that stuff in workflows. Talk about how you can do more than just CI/CD. And that's about it for that demo. That demo is pretty straightforward, pretty easy. All right, so let's commit this. I'm curious for other people, anybody else that might be on the call right now, or on the call, Lord, I do entirely too many conference calls. But I'm curious for anybody else that might be on the stream right now, if you think committing to main during the demos is okay, or if you think I should be doing branches and pull requests and going through the proper type of process, so to speak. So if you have any thoughts on that, I'd love those comments. Yep, see, I keep doing it. So let's commit that. This is going to be the demo 04 instructions. And commit those to the branch. Come back out here to code. Create this pull request. Tie it back to our issue. Merge it, confirm the merge. Delete the branch. Then come back to our issue and demo enhancements, or demo cleanup. And we'll mark demo 4 as completed. All right, so I got about 30 minutes left in the stream for today. So let's at least get started with trying to convert or get rid of demo 5 and convert demo 6 into demo 5 so that my demos are labeled appropriately, and see where we can go from there. And I hope everyone is enjoying the stream so far. All right. Well, removing demo 5 is going to be relatively easy, right? So we'll come over here. We will go back to our main branch. And let's create a new branch from here, and we'll call it wiki-octodemo/demo 05 removal. Switch to that branch. And we're just going to come into the workflow section and delete. Now demo 5, so here's the deal. Demo 5 talked about doing pushes and PR, or doing workflows with pushes and PRs, but it was very basic. And then demo 6 kind of was also a workflow that did stuff with pushes and PRs, but it is a real world example. So what I'm doing is getting rid of demo 5 and just going to go straight with demo 6, because then I'm hoping that will give me, what I found previously is I ran out of time. I ran out of time to get to, say, like the fun little demo with the light bulb or anything else. And so I wanted to give it a little time for that. So that's why I'm removing those two demos, or demo 5, and revamping a little bit. So in this case, I'm going to see removed old demo 5 files. And we will commit that. And then I need to actually modify my README, because this I need to be out of preview. Let's go back to the files. Because this no longer exists, so let's remove this. And stage those, removed old demo 5 from README. And we will commit that. Come back out here. I don't have to do it. Remember, I don't have to do it from out here. I could do this from in the code editor as well. But I'm going to create the pull request that I need. We're going to link this back to demo cleanup. Create the pull request. Merge it. Confirm the merge. Delete that branch. So now we can go back to our issue, and we can mark we've removed demo 5. You'll notice how, because I'm using these little checkboxes in the issue, that it's also giving me a track of my tasks that I've completed. And back here on the actual issues page, we can see that as well. 5 of 8 completed so far. So now we're into the fun part of moving demo 6 into demo 5. And this is, I'm not going to complete this tonight. And one of the reasons I'm not going to complete this tonight is because part of this demo is deploying into Azure. And I've got to go remember how to create the Azure credentials that I need to do that. So we'll get started on this. We'll see how far we can get, but we may not get it all done tonight, and in which case I might try to do some streaming this week while I'm working on it, just if you're interested. We'll see. All right. So let's go figure out how to make this work as best we can. I'm kind of having fun doing this with the web editor. Now I could do this again. I could do this by just editing directly in the UI or by pulling down local, but it's kind of interesting doing it in the web editor. So let's go back to our main branch. And there's probably easier ways and probably how I'm doing things, I suspect. But we're going to create a new branch. And we'll call this Mickey-octodemo/demo5. Demo 5. And yes, I want to switch to the branch. So first one, basically, demo 5 is demo 6 basically renamed to demo 5. So we're going to come in here and rename this to be demo 5. And we're going to rename this one to be demo 5. Now, demo 5, this is our, we've kind of shown you the basics. We've talked about the fact that, what a GitHub Actions workflow is. We've talked about that the workflows have jobs. They can be triggered off of different events. These jobs can run, you can control the order the jobs run in. Oh, I just thought of something else to potentially add. I talk about this in the advanced talk, but if I have time in the basic talk, adding in the option of conditional steps. This is in advanced, maybe show here. Concurrency. Again, a lot of this stuff I think could go better in the advanced talk, but I'm just tracking it just in case. All right, so we're renaming those. Now what demo 5 is we've talked about all these basics, right? So let's show a real, we're getting near the end of the talk. We've covered the basics of GitHub Actions. We've talked about jobs and steps, and you can have jobs that rely on other jobs. We can mention in passing that we have the ability to do conditionals on steps to only execute certain steps at certain times. Again, we can cover, that's covered more in an advanced talk, but it's something to mention. So then I want to show an actual real world example of this. So this is what demo 5 is. It's two different workflows. So the first workflow is, and we need to make some changes because it's going to be called demo 5. This particular workflow triggers on a pull request that's created that targets the main branch. So when you create a pull request that targets the main branch, this is going to be triggered. Now, without a branch protection rule in place, this isn't a required thing. That's what I was going to potentially add as an enhancement as well. In demo 5, and I've got to run this to see if I've got time for this. But in demo 5, another potential enhancement would be demo 5, make the PR fail initially, which you can make, if you ever want to make a workflow fail, all you have to do is add a run step that doesn't exit of a non-zero number. So like an exit 1 or an exit 2, and that will make the step fail. And if you do an exit 0, it makes the step pass. What does that mean? Huh, okay. But if we look at this, this is triggering off of a pull request. And then what this is going to do is basically on a pull request, when we create a pull request, what we want to do is build our code, test our code, and then take the build artifacts and load them up into the workflow so that we could review them. So what this workflow file does is a build and test of the PR running on Ubuntu. This is a .NET Core web app. I'll show you the web app here in a second. It's nothing like incredibly fancy. And we are going to have multiple steps. So in this case, we're now having a step where we're using an actions checkout. So this is where we also have to talk about the fact that we have a marketplace of actions out there. And there's lots of actions. There's actions that have been built by GitHub. There's actions that have been built by verified third parties. There's actions that have been built by the community. I've even built a couple of actions. I built an action to tell a dad joke, and that's out there and available to you. But the fact is, you can use these actions from the marketplace, and we probably show the marketplace. We'll show the marketplace and show them how they can see the actions. But we'll use these actions from the marketplace, and one of those is the checkout action. This is an action that's been written by GitHub that checks out the repository. Then we're going to use an action that was created by the actions team to set up .NET, in this case .NET Core, in a specific version. Then I have a series of run steps. So I do a .NET restore on my code, and my code is located in the workspace where everything was checked out, and then in the My Web App folder, and there's my proj file. Then we're going to do a .NET build. We're going to do a .NET test. And finally, we're going to do a .NET publish to create the files. This is a .NET MVC core web app. So we're going to do a .NET publish that creates the files that I might need to be able to deploy this out to Azure. My cat's going crazy in case you hear a bunch of meowing in the background. And then finally, remember I mentioned that we want to take those files that make up my web app and store them in the workflow run so that we could examine them later. So in this case, we've got the upload build artifact action. And this is an action that will take the artifact, or take whatever I give it, and upload it as a zip file to the actual run of the workflow. And you give it an artifact name, you tell it the path of where the files are that you want to use. In this case, those are going to be the files I specified on my web app folder where I wanted it to put all the files when I did the publish. And I specify how long I want it to last. So what this PR workflow does is it takes when a pull request is created that targets the main branch, it takes it builds the app, it tests the app, and then it loads up the workflow files. Then we have a workflow that runs on a push to main. And the workflow that runs on a push to main is, in this case, this is an example of being able to have multiple events that could potentially trigger this workflow file. Because I want to trigger this workflow file manually, or it could be I want to trigger this workflow file to run only on a push to main, like when a pull request is merged. And this file, it has multiple jobs in it. The first job is the build job, and this builds the application. And this looks very similar to the job that we saw in the pull request. Okay, it checks out, it does a .NET Core setup, it does a restore, build, test, publish, and then it uploads the artifacts into this workflow run. But where it gets interesting is in the jobs after this, because the jobs after this we're going to deploy to dev. And we're going to deploy to dev, meaning that we're deploying to an Azure dev environment. And you'll notice that we're making use of the needs keyword. So my build job has to have completed before this deploy to dev can work. We're making use of something I haven't even talked about yet, which I've got to go build out in this repo called environments. And the environments think of them as, excuse me one second while I see if I can get the cat to be quiet. And environments, I'm back, I chased off the cat. And environments are basically objects that you can target your jobs at. And they allow you to do things like require manual approvals or require wait times before you can deploy into those environments. So it's a way to have, gates before a certain job can run. So this is targeting the demo6_dev environment. These are defined at the repository level. I'm going to have to go build those. So let's actually, I have to remember to do that. And you can give your environments a URL. And this is a clickable URL that you'll be able to see in the workflow run, as well as off of the code tab in your repository. You'll be able to see the different environments you've deployed to. And if you've provided a URL, you can click that URL and go to that deployment. And then if we look at the steps for this deployment, we're doing a checkout. We're setting up .NET Core again. I don't know if I really need this, but we're setting it up. Then we're logging into Azure using the Azure CLI. And you'll notice that I'm making use of secrets. Now, we haven't talked about secrets yet. This is also a point where we talk about secrets as well, which are where you can store credentials. And you can store secret credentials at the organizational level, at the repository level, or at the environment level. So you might have different credentials that you use for deploying to dev and QA than you use for deploying to prod. So you have the ability to find those secrets in multiple different places. But I'm going to log into my Azure CLI. I'm then going to download the build artifact that the previous job created for me. I'm not going to rebuild, right? I've built my code, so now I want to take those artifacts and deploy them into the multiple different environments. So I use the download artifacts action, and I tell it the artifact I want to download and where I want to put it. And then I use an action called Web Apps Deploy, created by the Actions team, that deploys my application to an app service running in Azure. So in this case, this is my app service that's running in Azure. This is the package I want to deploy. So that, remember, that's the build artifacts from earlier. And I want to also put it into the dev slot. Then I have my deploy QA, which also needs build app to finish. So what's happening is the build app job runs. Once the build app job runs, then it fans out and deploys to dev and QA at the same time. Dev and QA deployment's almost exactly the same. The difference is I'm targeting a different environment, but I still do a checkout. I still log in, I download, and in this case, I deploy to Azure Web Apps, but I'm deploying to a QA slot. Now, one thing I haven't tried to figure out is there a way to combine the dev and the QA using, say, a matrix? So I could have one job to deploy to dev and QA, but use a matrix strategy to do that. And that is actually something I'm going to add into potential demo enhancements. Let's edit this one more time. And this is going to be for demo 5 deploy. Can we combine dev QA into one job using a matrix strategy? I think we might be able to. So that might be something I'll investigate as well. And then when we deploy to prod, dev and QA need to have both deployed successfully. And in the prod environment, which I haven't set up, I'm going to define a manual approval. So it has to go through a manual approval process before it can deploy off into prod. And then in this case, the environment is prod that it's targeting, and all of this is still very similar. So those are the two workflow files. So those should pretty much work as expected. Now you'll notice if we come back over to the Actions tab, So what's going to be a little whacked out about this? Oh, let me show you the web app first as well. And then of course the web app is here in my repo, the my web app folder, and it's just honestly it's just your standard .NET Core MVC starter app. And usually what I do to make a change is I go to views, I go to shared, I go to layout, and I've added in this third menu item here. And I change that to be like the name of the code camp. And then it would execute. Now, what's going to happen, I'm on a branch. So right now I'm on a branch. And if we look in the actions, we don't see we don't see demo 5. So let's see what happens if I come back over here and I stage all these changes. And I'm working on demo 5. Now I've committed those changes. If we come back to the Actions tab and do a refresh, we still don't see anything here because this is only going to list workflows that have been pushed to the main branch. But what I think is going to happen when I create this, let's see what happens. See, I'm about to create a pull request that targets working on demo 5. Now when I create this pull request, I'm betting that it's going to trigger my workflow. What do you think? Think it's going to trigger the workflow? Boom, triggered the workflow. And that's because we pushed that workflow, or that's because we have created a pull request that is targeting the main branch. So even though that workflow isn't in the main branch, the demo 6 one is, but remember it's disabled. We now see the demo 5 pull request. It's not in the main branch, it's still in that sub branch, but it got triggered. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. You'll notice that it got triggered. It ran super fast. Surprising. It loaded up an artifact. Here's my web app artifacts, and I can even download this. And if I open the file, here are the files related to that web app. So where things are going to, so now we've got the pull request. Now this is the actual demo. This is just me trying to get the files out there into the main branch so that I can, test this demo. So let's come back into this pull request. We can see that that showed up as a check. The check was successful. It's not required, by the way, because I don't have a branch protection rule in place right now. And I can merge that pull request. I'm going to delete the branch. And now what we're going to see back on the Actions tab. Oh, I didn't change the name. It still shows up as Demo 6, but you can see it did kick off. I'm going to cancel it because I don't have all the secrets and stuff in place to be able to make that change. Oh, that's annoying. But now what I'm going to do is I don't want these to run right now. I may want them to run later, so I'm going to disable both of these workflows so they won't run. Oh, that's it. The other thing I might want to do as one more potential enhancement is this. Show how you can add status badges for the workflows. All right, so let's come back out here. Our branches, our branch is gone, but you know what? We're gonna go to branches. It's gone. Interesting. Actually, I thought there was a way I could restore the branch. I think there is. I think I am just drawing a blank. Interesting. Okay. Well, then let's come back out to our editor here. Let's change back to our main branch. We're going to fix that display name, and then we're going to call it a day, I think. Unless I got any questions in chat, which I don't have any questions in chat. Not convinced chat's working, but that's okay. So let's create a branch. We'll call this wiki-octademo/demo05 fix name. We'll switch to that branch. And we'll come in here to change this to be demo 5. Come back out to here. We can stage it, change name to demo 5. Commit it. From in here, we can even create the pull request. Change name to demo 5. Link this to our issue 3. Create the pull request. And we can merge it, all without leaving the web editor. Create the merge commit and delete the branch. And it's going to prompt me, you sure? Yes, I want to delete it. And if we come back over to the UI, the branch is gone. And if we go to the Actions tab, it's now called Demo 5 instead of Demo 6. All right. Well, I'm going to call it a night at this point. Next steps, which if I'm able to stream them, I will. It just depends on when I'm working on them. But my next steps are going to be, I need to work through this actual demo, right? I need to actually work through this demo, create the code change, have it create the pull request, have it create the push to main, have it even go in and create a branch protection rule to be able to show that it's going to be a required check. And then make sure that works end to end. Then I need to get my fun demo working, because I've got one more demo, which is I've got a light bulb that is connected to that you can connect to the internet, that I'm going to allow you to be able to star a repo and be able to change the color of the light bulb. And I'm going to invite people to do that, using the GitHub mobile app or whatever they'd like to use. So I need to get that one working. Let's look at our issues here. And then I need to make it where I can reset this to easily, add a label or tag or something, so I can easily, not a label, but add a tag, so I can easily reset this to beginning environment. And then I can look at some of the things that Ian mentioned. If we look at these other issues, I've got enhancements of my own I've come up with. I've got feedback that Ian gave me. And if you've got feedback, feel free to open an issue. But what I need to do is, well, something happened. Oh, Hey, look at that. Somebody followed me. Ha! And my little thingy worked. So I'm still trying to get used to Twitch, right? Still, as you can see, I don't have fancy overlays, any of that stuff. What I told myself is if I kept doing this every Sunday night, that I would start investing some time into overlays. But I did play with that a little bit of the trying to get followers, or trying to get it to make a little noise when I get a follower. That scared the crap out of me, so thank you. But what I'm going to try to do is get Demo 5 working, get my light bulb working, then actually touch up the slides and run through it. Because remember, I've only got 60 minutes. So what I need to do is do a run through of seeing if I can get it done in 60 minutes. Then I can start taking this feedback and other stuff, and I can create bonus content. So if I get through it faster, here's the bonus content. Or it's content that I can then add into my advanced talk, as well as I can use all of this to create some YouTube videos and keep streaming on Twitch. So with that, I'm going to call it a night. I appreciate everyone who stuck around and watched. I will save this out. I think I'm going to be able to save this out under my Twitch channel, and I'll also ultimately download it and load it up to YouTube so that it's also available long-term on YouTube for people that might be interested. I got nothing else. I don't see any comments in the chat window. I am not convinced my chat window is working, but that's okay. I appreciate everybody who has stuck around and watched, and I hope you have a great evening, and I'll see you next time I stream. Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching.